What if you could build a complete moral system using only the power of the human mind? What if you could arrive at everything Christian ethics promises? Universal law, human dignity and justice, using nothing but pure, unfiltered reason. This was the life's work of Immanuel Kant, a titan of philosophy. His system, the Categorical Imperatives, represents one of the most sophisticated, brilliant and compelling attempts to ground all of the morality in reason alone. It promises an ethics that is autonomous, springing from reason itself, not external commands, and universal, accessible to any rational being, believer or not. It is a breathtaking project, but what is the true relationship between this new system and the Christian ethics it seems to so closely mirror? Is Kant's work a replacement for religious ethics? Or is it perhaps unintentionally its most powerful confirmation? Although I am a Christian, I'm not here to score cheap points, I promise. We're going to give Kant his due and take his ideas seriously. And as we'll see, the places where these two colossal systems perfectly align and the places where they violently break apart reveal something profound about the very nature of reason, faith, and morality itself. First things first, we have to give credit where credit is due. Kant's framework is genuinely impressive. He gives us two main tests for any moral actions. First is the formula of universal law. In layman's terms, universalizability. Before you act, ask yourself, what if everyone did this? If you want to lie to get a loan, you will have to will that everyone should lie to get loans. But if everyone did this, the entire institution of promising would collapse. No one would believe anyone, and your own lie wouldn't work. It's a logical contradiction. And it's an elegant, rational test that seems to build morality from the ground up, all without needing God to hand down a rule. And the second is formula of humanity. In his words, never treat another human being as mere means to an end, but always as an end in themselves. In layman's terms, don't use people. It's that simple. People aren't tools you use to get something. They aren't stepping stones. Every person has their own inherent worth, their own goals, their own mind. They are the ends of their own story. When you lie to someone to get a loan, you're not treating them like a person. You're treating them like a wallet. You are using them as a means to get money and ignoring their worth as an end, a rational person who deserves the truth. When a CEO lays off workers via impersonal email to boost quarterly profits, he's treating humans as tools for financial gains, not as people with inherent worth. When someone dates a person they're not actually attracted to, just because the person has social status or money that will advance their career, they're treating that person as a ladder, not a human being with feelings and dignity. And Kant says, this is a fundamental line you cannot cross. But this simple rule isn't just about what you can't do. Its implications are massive, and this is where Kant's system demands everything. Sure, it means don't lie, cheat, steal, or harm. But that's just the entry level. The real twist is that this rule applies to yourself. You are not allowed to use your own being as mere means to an end. This means you have a duty to yourself. You can't treat your body as a tool for chemical high, for example, succumbing to addiction. You can't even use yourself as a tool for escapism. And it's not just negative duty, like don't harm yourself. It's also a positive duty. You have to develop yourself and pursue the best possible version of your rational self. This logic also revolutionizes your relationships. You can't use flattery on others. That's just a sleek way of using them. But you also can't accept flattery, because that means letting someone else treat your dignity as a cheap log to be picked. It demands rigorous, mutual respect in all things. And as you read Kant, you get this profound sense of familiarity. It starts to feel less like a new discovery and more like a brilliant reverse engineering of principles that were already there. The parallels are stunning. Kant gives us the universal moral law. Christianity has the golden rule: do to others what you would have them do to you. Both are universal principles designed to guide all moral actions. Kant grounds human dignity in our rational nature. Christianity grounds it in the imago Dei, the idea that every human is made in the image of God. While the source is phrased in different terms, reason versus revelation, both systems arrive at the same radical conclusion. Every single person has unconditional, inherent worth. Kant's formula of humanity is a powerful philosophical articulation of this truth, but the content of this ethics is deeply familiar. From core prohibitions against murder and theft to the duty to treat others as ends in themselves or love your neighbor, even to the duty to develop yourselves. Think of Parable of the Talents. The content of Kant's system looks less like a replacement for Christian ethics and more like a brilliant restatement of it, just in the language of pure reason. So if the content is so similar, Where's the real difference? It's not in the what, don't lie, don't use people. It's in the why and the how. The foundations are fundamentally different, and the divergence comes down to three key points. First is foundation. Autonomous reason versus divine relationship. For Kant to be truly moral, an act must come from autonomy. You, as a rational being, must legislate the law for yourself. If you just obey orders, even from a divine being, he'd call that obedience, not morality. A true moral act must be freely chosen by your own reason. For Christianity, morality is grounded in a relationship. The first commandment is, love the Lord your God. And the framework is, if you love me, keep my commands. The moral act is not autonomous. It is a response to a creator. The second is in the human condition. Rational optimism versus moral failure. And Kant's system is built on a powerful optimism in human will. He famously said, ought implies can. If you have a moral duty to do something, you must have the rational capacity to do it. The solution to moral failure is to re-engage your reason and do your duty. Christianity, in contrast, offers a far more severe diagnosis of the human condition. Apart from me, you can do nothing, as said in John 5. It views our moral failures not as simple errors in reasoning, but as deep-set condition, sin. And the solution isn't try harder, it's grace. When Peter denies Jesus 3 times, he's a total moral failure. A Kantian model would demand that Peter, by his own rational will, pick himself up and rededicate himself to his duty. The Christian story is the opposite. Jesus finds Peter, forgives him before he's done anything to deserve it, and restores him, not based on his moral achievements, but on grace. The command is, do you love me? Feed my sheep. Notice the order. Jesus doesn't say, once you've proven yourself worthy by feeding my sheep, then I'll restore you. The relationship is restored first, and the moral action flows from it. The third one, motivation. A duty of principle versus a duty of love. It starts with one of the most challenging parts of Kant's system. He argues that for an action to have true moral worth, it must be done from duty alone. It can't be contaminated by love, sympathy, or even the pleasure of helping. If you visit a nursing home because you enjoy it, Kant says your act has no true moral worth. The only purely moral act is the one done by the person who hates it but forces himself to go, purely from a cold, rational sense of duty. Now pause. If you're thinking, does that make a psychopath the ultimate moral hero? We have to be fair. Kant would say no. He is not praising emotionless robots. His ideal is a saint who has, through a lifetime of duty, trained his emotions to align with his reason. He does the act because it's his duty. And he has just become the kind of person who finds happiness in doing that duty. The good feeling is a byproduct, not the motive. But here's the twist. Christianity also has a concept of the duty. When Jesus commands us to love your enemies, he's commanding an action that goes against our natural feelings. It is a duty. So both systems are for grown-ups. Both demand a duty that overrides mere feelings. The divergence isn't duty versus feeling. Now it's duty versus duty? Well, when Kantian saint and the Christian saint both love their enemies, they are both performing a difficult duty. But why? The Kantian is doing it from respect for a principle, the universal law he legislated for himself. The Christian is doing it from the love for a person, God, who is love and who commanded it. The ultimate motive isn't duty versus love. It's respect for a law versus love for a lawgiver. And that is where the final divergence between Kant and Christianity stands. It may seem small now, but trust me, in the end, I will show you how important this is. So we have our two foundations, Kant's autonomous reason and Christianity's relational duty. But a critical practical question arises. How does anyone learn these systems? Let's use the ultimate test case, a 5-year-old child. A 5-year-old is told, don't lie. A Kantian parent might explain, we don't lie because if everyone lied, the very concept of truth would collapse, and that's a logical contradiction. A Christian parent might explain, we don't lie because God is truth, and he commanded us to be truthful. Now here's the question. Does that 5-year-old understand the nuance of autonomous reason versus relational theology? No. The child hears one thing. Don't lie because my mom and dad said so. In both systems, the moral law is received from external authority. No 5-year-old is autonomously deriving the categorical imperative from first principles. Now, to be fair, Kant knew this. He agreed that autonomy is an aspirational goal for mature adult, not a starting point. He even argued that we need to build a moral community to teach those values. But this reveals a deep practical paradox. Kant's system, which is defined by its rejection of external authority, has no autonomous way to teach itself. To survive and propagate, Kant's system must rely on the exact same tools as a Christian framework he criticized. Christianity has parents teaching their children the commandments based on divine authority. Kant's system also needs parents to teach the categorical imperative based on their parental authority. And it's not just for children. Universities abide by similar principles with much older audiences. Christianity has the church, a community to reinforce moral norms, provide mutual support, and study the tradition. Kant literally argued for a moral community, a voluntary association of people dedicated to upholding the moral law, which is essentially a secular church. Christianity has scripture and sacred tradition, a body of wisdom passed down through generations. Kant's system needs a cultural and educational tradition to preserve and pass down his rational insights to the next generation. In practice, for at least the first 18 years of everyone's life, Kant's purely autonomous system is just as reliant on authority, community, and the tradition as the Christian one. And let's be honest, how many adults actually sit down and autonomously rederive this entire moral system from pure reason? The vast majority of people in either system follow the moral norms they were taught. Kant's autonomous agent is a rare philosophical ideal, not a practical description of how 99% of humanity operates. This implementation problem is big, but the system itself starts to buckle when it leaves the classroom and hits the messy real world. Kant's tidy framework struggles to pass 3 critical tests. First is the self-sacrifice puzzle. Kant is clear. You must always treat humanity as an end, including the humanity in your own person. This is why he argued against suicide. But what about heroic self-sacrifice? A soldier jumps on a grenade to save his platoon. Christianity has a clear answer. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. It's the pinnacle of moral love. Kant's system stalls. Is the soldier using his own life merely as a means to the end of saving his friends? Can you universalize the maxim, all soldiers should sacrifice themselves in this situation? The system isn't built for this question. It's a profound act of love that Kant's logic struggles to process. The second is the above and beyond problem. Kant's system is binary. You either do your duty and you're moral, or you don't and you're immoral. It has no category for extra credit. This is a philosophical problem of supererogation. Actions that are good but not required. When the rich young ruler asks Jesus what to do, Jesus gives the duty answer, follow the commandments. But when the man asks what more he can do, Jesus offers a path to perfection. Go sell your possessions. Christianity has a robust category for saints and heroes who go above and beyond the minimum. Kant's system struggles to explain the phenomenon of Mother Teresa. If she could give away 90% of her income to the poor, why wasn't that her duty all along? His system has a hard time distinguishing a saint from a simply decent person. Kant's maximalism creates an impossible bind. If I can do more good, it becomes my duty. But if everything good I can do becomes required, I am trapped in an endless obligation that human limits makes impossible. Christianity avoids this by distinguishing commandments, that are minimum duties, from counsels of perfection, heroic callings. Kant's system collapses this distinction. And the third is the bad faith actor. This final problem is perhaps the most devastating for Kant's real-world hopes. His entire political project, his dream of perpetual peace, relies on rational, enlightened rulers, and nations agreeing to play by the same moral rules. But his system has no robust answer for the bad faith actor, the person who refuses to play by the rules. Imagine an election. Candidate A is a true Kantian. He refuses to lie, manipulate, or treat voters as mere means to his end of getting elected. Candidate B is a sociopath. He will lie, cheat, and tell any group exactly what they want to hear to gain power. Who wins? Kant's system assumes candidate A, but offers no defense against candidate B. His only answer was that enlightened rulers should listen to philosophers. This, to put it mildly, is wishful thinking. Christianity, by contrast, is tragically realistic. It is full of stories of moral people like Daniel, Joseph, and Esther, figuring out how to serve God while navigating the courts of corrupt, narcissistic, and often psychopathic regimes. Christianity's core theology is built on the doctrine of the fall. It doesn't expect the world to be rational. It expects it to be unjust and for power to corrupt. Because it anticipates a bad faith world, it provides a robust toolkit for surviving it. First, it offers dual citizenship. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's. Daniel serves in Babylon's government while refusing to bow to idols. Joseph manages Egypt's economy under Pharaoh while remaining faithful to God. It is a way to be in a corrupt world without being of it. In other words, part of the corruption itself. Second, it has a deep theology of redemptive suffering. The central symbol of the faith is a cross, an instrument of unjust state-sponsored torture. It has a way to find meaning in persecution, something Kant's system, which is about succeeding in your duty, cannot possess. Third, its ultimate hope is eschatological. You don't really count on the current justice of this world. No, the final hope in a future justice. This creates a framework that can endure a bad-faced world, not a system that breaks the second it encounters one. This leads to one of Kant's most shocking and perhaps self-contradictory claims. In his later work, Kant himself diagnosed this radical evil in human nature. He saw that we are deeply corrupted, and yet, in his essay Perpetual Peace, he makes an astonishing claim that nature guarantees perpetual peace. He argues that through the mechanisms of commerce and enlightenment, human progress toward a moral utopia is inevitable. This is a staggering leap of faith, and it's a faith that the 20th century shattered. The 20th century had its share of world-shaking events, but the cleanest and most devastating refutation of this optimism comes from communism. Here we have regimes explicitly built on what they claimed was pure scientific reason. They were officially atheist, wildly antagonistic to Christianity, and dedicated to rationally engineering a human utopia. We must be clear, Kant was not a communist, but his own philosophy, in its command to never treat a human as a mere means, did identify the evil of exploitation. This is a real moral evil, but communism didn't solve this problem, but exploited it. It used the language of liberating the worker as a cynical pretext to seize total power. It hijacked a legitimate human grievance to justify a system that then committed the greatest exploitation of human history, treating every single citizen as a mere means to the ends of the state, the very evil Kant's formula was designed to prevent. The true rational product of this evil wasn't utopia, it was the Gulag, the Berlin Wall, the killing fields, and an ocean of blood that drowned nations across the globe. This is a terrifying historical proof that enlightenment and reason, when detached from the imago Dei, are not guaranteed vaccine against barbarism. In fact, they can be used to justify it on an industrial scale. And this just reinforces the point about the bad faith actor. Communism is also a parasite. It takes noble, even Christian-sounding words like justice and equality and hollows them out, corrupting them to serve the state. And this is the final fatal problem. Kant breaks his own rules. He criticizes religion for making metaphysical claims, but then makes his own massive metaphysical leap, a blind-faith belief in the God of historical progress. Christianity, by contrast, remains sober. It teaches that humans are fallen, that history is not guaranteed to get better, and that our ultimate hope is not in an inevitable natural mechanism. Far from it. Salvation cannot come to us naturally by definition. This creates the final practical difference. Kant's system is left passively hoping for a natural, historical process to eventually bring about justice. The Christian framework demands the opposite. It asserts that justice must be actively willed and fought for, not as an act of human optimism or power, but as an act of God working through human agents who are obedient to his calls. So, did Kant's brilliant system improve on Christian ethics? The evidence suggests no. He didn't improve it, he secularized it. And we have to give him his due. Kant's achievement is a towering monument of human thought. He undeniably created the most sophisticated, coherent, and systematic alternative to religious ethics ever devised. For anyone who cannot accept divine authority, his framework is the gold standard. His categorical imperative is genuinely useful, offering a powerful rational test for our actions that any person can use. But as we've seen, coherent secular framework is not the same thing as improvement. In fact, the most stunning realization is how close he got. The fact that this titan of pure reason, working from first principles, built a system that so perfectly mirrors the content of Christian ethics, of universal law and human dignity, could be seen as one of the greatest confirmations of that ethics' profound, even divine wisdom. It's in the areas where they diverge that the real story is told. His rational foundation, as we saw, is brittle. It struggles with the messiness of the real world. The 5-year-old child, the bad faith actor, the soldier on the grenade. And in the end, it forced him to substitute Christian hope and grace with a metaphysical faith in an inevitable natural progress. A faith that history itself proved tragically false. Kant's achievement is extraordinary. He showed us the absolute limits of what human reason can achieve on its own. But perhaps he also unintentionally showed us why reason alone isn't enough. Kant himself famously demonstrated that the pure reason, when pushed to its limits, gets tangled in knots, arguing for and against the existence of God with equal force. Perhaps that same brilliant, self-critical reason was the very thing that kept him from seeing the real deal, that his own system was a brilliant, reverse-engineered echo of a truth that reason can point to, but can never by itself provide. A realistic view of our own failure, and a hope that must come from the source of grace. And that, in the end, is the single most important difference. It might seem small, but the gap between Kant's respect for a law and Christianity's love for a lawgiver is the root of every other problem we found. A law cannot forgive you. Only Jesus can. A law is an abstract idea that must believe ought implies can. But only a relationship with Jesus anticipates failure and provides a way back. A law cannot defend itself. It breaks the second it meets a bad faith actor. But only Jesus gives you a realistic toolkit for a fallen world. That one simple-looking divergence is the source code for two completely different operating systems for morality. And that is the real difference.